in January of 2011. Most of my friends were deep into the prestige grind for a little-known first-person shooter, Call of Duty Black Ops. Wait, hold on. How many Call of Duty Black Ops are there now? Me? Well, I, on the other hand, was avidly awaiting Sony's second entry in the LittleBigPlanet franchise. And before you ask, yes, I in fact actually pre-ordered the game and still have to this date my Sackboy plushie that originally came with the game, who now sits directly next to my plushie from Sackboy's A Big Adventure. And seeing the two of them together is a little bit bittersweet, knowing that now the servers for LittleBigPlanet are no longer. You can't go back and play all those levels from not too long ago. And well, yeah, that's where a lot of my fond memories for the game come from. It's important to not forget that each entry in the series came with its own story. And I dare say that LittleBigPlanet 2's was the best in the trilogy. So today, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a little trip down memory lane together. What is going on, guys? This is your host, TheLostYeti here. And today, we're going to be revisiting LittleBigPlanet 2. We rejoin Sackboy after what is presumably the events of the first game, when he encounters our new villain for the first time. The Negativitron, as we would come to know, is a purple vacuum cleaner monster that sucks out all of the world's imagination and breeds nothing but negativity. And in my house, if you ask me, or my dogs, there are a few things more terrifying than a vacuum cleaner. Now naturally, this means the craft world is once again in great peril, and only our hero Sackboy can be the one to put an end to it. But this time, we won't be going alone, as Sackboy himself is narrowly saved from sudden death by none other than Larry Da Vinci. Oh, and a dude named Avalon Centrifuge? Him too. These two are members of a so-called alliance, which is a team specifically formed to save Craftworld and defeat the Negativitron. Right, so Da Vinci thinks that you need to prove yourself before you can join his elite team, which means you need to run, jump, and grapple your way through a series of tests that he's put together to prove yourself worthy. But what actually is worthy of noting is this is the first time in the series that we actually see an appearance of power-ups. More specifically, the grappling hook. This completely revolutionizes everything that we've seen before, making navigating levels completely different. It makes even the most basic levels a whole heck of a lot more entertaining, even when Da Vinci is just constantly trying to kill you. I mean, do you want to have to explain this giant robot? Having quote-unquote proven yourself, Da Vinci tasks you with his first mission, to save his love interest, Victoria von Bathysphere. She has been arranging a Sackbot army, but it seems that the Negativitron has managed to beat you to the punch. The Negativitron somehow, someway, turned Victoria's factory against her, and now it's your job to shut the machine down. In Victoria's sequence of levels, we actually see two additional power-ups, the Grabinator and the Creatinator, which seems to be ripping a page straight out of Dr. Doofenshmirtz's book, but who knows, maybe this is all just canon in Craftworld. The Grabinator allows Sackboy to pick up items and to throw them to defeat our little cupcake minions, whereas the Creatinator allows Sackboy to launch various items, specifically in this case, throwing more cakes than Stevie Aoki himself to defeat all of the little monsters. I also should take a second to shout out the train running level here, which is absolutely iconic. The premise is super freaking cool, and as far as I'm concerned, it is unlike anything that we've seen in the first game. We soon face Victoria's machine, and after literally caking it off of a cliff, we can finally progress to the next world. Still on the hunt for a Sackbot army, we end up at the Factory for a Better Tomorrow. Hands down, the best world in the entire franchise. You may disagree, but you'd be wrong. Here we meet Clive, a washed-up calendar factory CEO, if that's a thing, who is a little bit down in the dumps. Dumps as in dumpster, or in our case, tin can. He tasks us with saving the brainwashed sackbots from the factory, which is something that we were going to do anyways, so nothing new here. And before I get too ahead of myself, I must say the level design here is absolutely brilliant. Having the sackbots originally run away from you, only to then follow you as they learn that you're trying to save them, is super, super clever. And the whole time, you're just trying to keep the poor guys from throwing themselves off of a cliff, which is somewhat endearing. Not to mention that the actual soundtrack for this is absolutely fire. And yeah, the Soviet undertones of a communist factory that makes bombs in a former calendar factory with giant robots that try to kill you. Yeah, that's really cool. And really the cherry on the cake is they do a callback to the Skulldozer chase from LittleBigPlanet 1 in the form of a flaming guard turkey. Yeah, or that's what they went with. And I am so here for it. Honestly, playing through just these levels alone was such a nostalgia trip and totally worth it. Now, with the sackbots saved from the factory, we decide that it's time for us to go meet up with Avalon Centrifuge. It seems in the meantime that Avalon has been upping his armaments for taking down the Negativitron. He has a bunny that can do power stomps, a hamster that's gotta go fast, a dog that can bark, and a camel that shoots lasers out of its eyes. Where have we seen this before?
I think I'll take you out for a spin.
And I shoot lasers out of my
Avalon.
All of the above are thanks to this new feature that they added to the game called the Controlinator, which is basically a little Sackboy saddle that lets the player control anything they want, which is such a sick sandbox feature that people made amazing use of in the multiplayer levels, and gosh, I wish they were still around to play because it was so freaking cool. But nevertheless, Avalonia in a whole is just a perfect showcase of what the Controlinator can do, and I never expected to have a side-scrolling shooter inside of LittleBigPlanet. It's like crossing genres of game. That's awesome. Now, I've been glazing over what's kind of been moving in the background. Basically, we commandeered a spaceship and are going to take the fight to the Negativitron. But this final epic battle that I was just gushing all about, yeah, well, it left our spaceship a little worse for wear. Let's say that. And what that means is we have no other choice but go to Eve's Asylum in search of Herbert Higginbottom. For whatever reason, he seems like the only person crazy enough to try to work on our spaceship. And yes, I literally mean insane enough, because we are going to Eve's insane asylum deep in the middle of the jungle. And maybe it's because I'm starting to go insane, but not only am I starting to see fire demons in this jungle, but I am also starting to see little Easter eggs of every single player from the previous game, or rather, every single character from the previous game, which is a super cool touch, and I'm just going to point out a few right here. But more importantly, the Asylum actually showcases all of the cool power-ups and things that we learned along the way. You actually use the Controlinator to drive a little inchworm up a tree, and the Creatinator to actually put out fires that are spreading on the leaves around you, which is super creative. Now, maybe we probably shouldn't be releasing all of these people from their cells, but regardless, we save a couple Sackboys along the way, and before you know it, we're straight to Dr. Higginbottom himself. But see, the only way to cure his illness, if you will, is to go deep down inside him, full Osmosis Jones style. Please tell me you get that reference. I am not that old. And defeat the virus from inside. And again, we get to use the Controlinator to take control of a pill or a vitamin or an antibiotic. And listen, I'm not a doctor. You get the gist. It's cool. You fight some sort of infectious disease. It's like 2020 all over again. And with Higginbottom saved, He uses medicine or magic or whatever it is, I don't know, he's a doctor, to fix your spaceship and head off into the cosmos after the Negativitron. Once in space, you actually get to play a little bit around in zero gravity, which is something that I wish we got more of, but I totally understand as they're kind of tying the story off at the end. And we get a little bit more of what feels like the leftover levels from A Factory of a Better Tomorrow, which is well appreciated. And this all culminates in a War of the Worlds type feeling with all of your new friends from the Alliance. It's not really explained, but we reach what I'll call the core. Basically, that's where the Negativitron is, and we get a full-out multi-phase boss fight, which is super satisfying. First, we break out our power-up from Avalonia, the Gotta Go Fast Hamster, which makes pretty quick work in the Negativitron. Frankly, I didn't have much trouble here. Then moving to a grappling hook, pseudo-zero gravity sequence. This is super entertaining, kind of hard to get like the swing just right, but when you knock him down, boy is it satisfying. And bringing us to our final frustrating phase. My god, you get to use the Grabinator to throw what I'll call goo at the Negativitron, and I don't even want to admit how many times I missed, but this was supposed to be a quick fight, and I couldn't get it together for the life of me. And honestly, I felt like the game finally pitied me when the final hit landed, because I did not deserve it. At last, the Negativitron falls to our boy, Sackboy. And come to think of it, minus the hamster, and I suppose giving us the what help did the Alliance do other than get us here? Regardless, with the negativity finally gone, Negativitron defeated, Craft World once again can begin to blossom thanks to you, Sackboy, as we zone out with a final cinematic of literally Craft World blooming and the credits rolling. And all of this really was just a showcase of what you could build in create mode with all the tools that the game gave you. This really wasn't supposed to be a story, yet it was an awesome story to play through just by itself anyways. If you guys made it this far in the video and you have access to LittleBigPlanet 2, I'd highly recommend that you play through it for yourself. I had a lot of fun. Even as old as this game is, I think it still holds up, and I don't regret saying that it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's still a great game to play today. I want to thank each and every one of you for making it this far in the episode. If you liked this video and you want more of it, consider checking out my coverage of the first game in the franchise. But for now, I think that's all we got time for. Thanks again, guys, for hanging out with me and checking out one of my all-time favorites. As always, this has been your host, TheLostYeti, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.